The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Start your day in flow with the new Gillette Labs razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
Now then, you're welcome along. So another Champions League evening lies in store. Liverpool fans got to boo the Champions League anthem yesterday. Today it's the turn of Man City fans against Leipzig amongst the games. Dan McDonnell will be here across the evening. We have Wednesday night rugby at the earlier time of 7:30. Rory O'Connor, Fiona Hayes coming your way. The reason we've moved it to 7:30 is that we have recorded an extraordinary interview, frankly. There's no other word for him when he starts talking about the most intimate of things. Liam Hayes, two-time All-Ireland winner with Meath, sports journalist, publisher, novelist. We didn't even talk to him about that. A man who's had his fight with cancer and plenty more besides. So an extraordinary interview on his part coming your way between 8 and 9. We had to cut out a chunk of it just for time purposes, but the full chat will of course go up on podcast and our social channels, and I highly recommend it. 53106 the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Do get in touch. Dan McDonnell, hello.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Here we are.
Yeah, we haven't even said, like, this is a real hello. We haven't actually said hello yet at all, so I have no idea how you're doing.
Okay.
That's good.
I could do with a coffee.
Is that a hint?
Just drop milk.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Throwing it out there to you.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Get a few good reviews in the papers and you're just bossing people around the place, what?
Well, listen, I wouldn't dream to mention it. No. So you watched Liverpool, I presume, last night? I
did, yes.
Wow.
People who maybe listened to us chatting last week, I did get slightly worried when Liverpool went 2-0 up, because you did send me a quite smug message on Saturday evening.
When they beat Newcastle?
They beat Newcastle. It wasn't even just when they beat Newcastle, it was like 20 minutes into the game when they were 2-0 up.
Yes.
Because last week I had suggested that maybe beating Everton didn't really represent a turning of the corner. And you were like, stick with me here. I was like, okay. And then they went 2-0 up after 15 minutes last night, and you did come into my mind straight away at this stage going, I'm in here tomorrow and this is going to be a problem. And to be 100% accurate, I actually didn't see the first 15 minutes. I saw the rest of the game from then, and I just, you know the way sometimes with a game you'd be a bit complacent about watching the first few minutes of it sometimes. I'm not going to miss much, and you sort of saw, oh my God, what have I Liverpool are back. And I was thinking, do I send a message to Joe now to get ahead of the slagging, or will I just sit and wait? Pretty happy with how things worked out from that perspective. No disrespect intended to Liverpool fans out there, but
Now, I was obviously talking in Premier League terms.
Oh really? Yeah. Okay, yeah. They if only they could play Everton every week, you know, and a slightly scatty Newcastle. It was firstly, like, again, I have no stake in the game here, so it's different obviously for people who are like rabid Liverpool fans. From a football event perspective, it's just like really good to watch the best footballers at it, and just seeing Luka Modric sort of careering through at the end. But the extent to which Liverpool were all over the shop is sort of shocking in a way. And look, it's easy to say it now because you did look at them on Saturday and think, okay, maybe there is something happening here. But so this just sounds really smug in hindsight. But I think when you look at how the times recently where they've been dismantled by teams in the Premier League a couple of times, I suppose the idea that can just click and that can be gone in a very short space of time, because I think the point for me was that I appreciate the point about their energy and like they had a bit of sort of zest in their play against Everton, but it's their application has been so bad at times, conceding goals early in games, coming out of block slowly, that I suppose if things aren't 100% right, that just catches up with you over time. And because they are a great team, or they were a great team, or however you want to phrase it, like they have the ability to probably still produce big performances. I've no doubt they will between now and the end of the season. Like, it wouldn't rule out them finishing in the top four, but in terms of that sustained excellence, that carried them through recent years. They did have that year, the West Brom year, where Alisson got the header, but they dropped off. And I just feel it, and again, it's so easy to say it now. It's the easiest time to say it, but when you lose something, I think it can get found out by the smartest teams, and
they were so good, Real Madrid.
They're just Vinicius is so good. Like, I saw a bit of him in Qatar, and I only saw Brazil once there, and I suppose you probably assume you'd see them more later in the competition. And again, he just gets lost in everything that happened in that tournament. But he is such an exciting player to watch, when he sort of gets going. But I mean, he was terrorising them then. And I suppose you look at the combination of having that type of threat, and then you have some of the most intelligent footballers on the pitch like Benzema, the positions he takes up. It probably does expose teams who aren't at it, in terms of their organisation and their awareness. But still, I think just the scale of it, the Anfield, the European nights, and all these things, all these big lines that we hit every so often.
Yeah.
And didn't matter, completely dismantled.
Richie McCormack with us as well. Hello.
Gents, how are you?
It did, Rich, last night feel like just the definitive endpoint on any suggestion that Liverpool might have signs of life.
Yeah, and even the sprouts that they'd shown in the last couple of weeks, like we highlighted them last night talking to Kenny, Stefan Bajcetic, you're looking at him last night and it looked a couple of levels still above him, and that's not his fault. He's an 18-year-old kid thrust into a failing Liverpool midfield and just happens to look like the best player in there, but looked like he's some way off competing at that level on a consistent basis last night. And then those around him just completely failed entirely. Like Fabinho has fallen off a cliff in terms of his form. I'd love to know what that's down to. Similarly, I think Virgil van Dijk is on a slide that's probably at his age going to be irreversible. And it's just hard to see how they get out of this. Like Dan's right, like this year, you look at the teams above them in the Premier League and you look at the run that they are still on in the Premier League, and that can't be discounted, that there is every chance they do finish in the top four, and they'll give it a right rattle between now and May. But that team needs big time refreshment, and it's possibly not in the areas that a lot of people are already looking, like the likes of James Milner and the Oxlade-Chamberlains of this world will have to be cycled out. But it's people like Fabinho and Virgil van Dijk and even Trent Alexander-Arnold, like that can't continue having fullbacks that can't defend. There's only so long that you can put up with it, and you can put up with it when you're being successful, when you're being fed out on a weekly basis, not only by your Real Madrids but teams like Brentford. It has to change.
Yeah, and that's such a complicated picture to unravel. So like Trent is an interesting case for that, like that point Rich makes about the defending. And yet I wonder, will Klopp see it as well? Two of the goals last night, one came from Fabinho giving the ball away, and the other one came from Bajcetic giving the ball away, where he beat one man and then he just, as an 18-year-old would, got a touch excited, tried to beat the other and lost the ball, and twice Madrid suckered them on the counter. So like, and Kenny Cunningham was in here last night and he was saying, look, I don't recognise this game. I didn't play this game where the fullbacks are so high up, everyone's so high up, that if a midfielder loses the ball like that, then all bets are off and we're in trouble. So I'm just so curious, will Klopp look at the Trent situation, or will he look at the likes of Fabinho and Bajcetic is going to get better, but will he think, that's the core issue, that we're not... Well,
there's clearly players out there that can do both. There's players out there that can do both. And you look at City, like City have made... Pep Guardiola, to an extent, has taken the mickey with what he's tried to do with that system over the last while, wherein he'll just outwardly play a back three while attacking and a back four defence, and just get Bernardo Silva to fill in there because he guesses he can. But there is a system wherein that still works. I just don't think that Trent Alexander-Arnold is up to it. And perhaps Andy Robertson isn't either, but I don't think he's the most pressing case. But certainly Alexander-Arnold is. And for all of his attacking nous and the kind of quiet talk that maybe he might be a better midfielder, the bare facts of it is he's a right back week in and week out, and he's not performing well. And that either needs to change as regards the way he trains, or the ultimate call is in personnel terms, and he needs to be, improved upon in the starting 11.
Yeah. The other point then, I suppose, again, because there are times where Alexander-Arnold is just a bad defender, and then there are times where Alexander-Arnold is caught off out of position or further up the pitch because he's been asked to be further up the pitch, and that's an accepted risk on the part of Klopp. And so the criticism there of Alexander-Arnold is unfair. Like, I would criticise him for the goal Madrid scored in the Champions League final, but there's other times where he's just high up the pitch, where you say, well, that's the plan, he's meant to be high up the pitch. The other thing which jumped out last night as they went up levels against Madrid, it's just like, it's such an obvious point to make that it's not made enough, but you can't go from Salah, Mane and Firmino to what they have. You just can't. Like, Núñez is fine and Gakpo is fine, and they actually had reasonable games last night, and the Núñez finish was amazing. However, in general play, he's still so raw. Like there was a moment in the second half where Liverpool kind of quasi on the break. Núñez picks it up left hand side, edge of his own area-ish, has space to run into, and they're kind of on the break. Not quite, but kind of. And he just sprints flat out straight into a circle of Madrid players. Doesn't decide early enough what's the right thing to do here, what's the right pass to give. Do I go myself and head for the touchline and try and go that way? Just ran straight into midfield, into centre circle, into traffic, ball taken off him. Mane's not doing that. And there is such a rawness about his play.
That kind of stuff is rectifiable, though.
That is. Medium term.
And you can mould those players, and you can alter the way they train, and alter the way they prepare, and alter the way they approach a game tactically. But when you're finished moulding players, the likes of Trent or the likes of Virgil van Dijk or the likes of Fabinho, and they've almost served up their use, that's the big call that has to be made. I don't think he's going to change things in the front three. He's just going to keep playing that way. But he needs to find better players for the positions that are causing him trouble at the moment. And funding is going to be the issue, because they don't the ownership situation is bizarre, whereby they were saying Tom Werner said they were seeking a potential sale. That's altered significantly this week with John W. Henry saying that it's going to be a minor investment only. But that investment needs to be big, because they need to spend big money to overhaul that team.
Where are you, Dan, on their defenders? Like I saw, for instance, Carragher went in really heavily on Van Dijk.
Yeah, and look, Carragher is I like Carragher as a pundit. You know, he's sort of he's not someone you would describe as sort of like overly chummy, you know, with sort of Liverpool players. Obviously, he would have had trickiness at times when Steven Gerrard's in certain roles, and you can see discomfort. But in saying that, I'm not sure if he'd go in as heavy on Van Dijk if he wasn't sensing something in the air that suggested it was merited, if you know what I mean. And I think you know, clearly there's some kind of concern. And now, I mean, the very kind reading of it is that he just hasn't been the same since coming back from a very serious long-term injury.
Yeah.
But you would feel there was more to it than that, in the sense of how heavy he's gone in on them. And I think with Van Dijk as well, I think the thing about Liverpool, I don't watch Liverpool every week in the way that they're hardcore fans. But I remember being in here earlier in the season. I think David Myler was on, and it was before they played Man City. And almost they'd had a bad result the week before, and you're almost thinking, will they compromise their principles in some way? Will they go a little bit safer here against City? And it's like, no, this is the way they play is the way they play, and it's what you're talking about. They live on the edge, you know. They live with that degree of risk all the time. But when Van Dijk was so good, you know, when he was at his absolute peak, I suppose that gives you a little bit more freedom, because you have that sort of towering presence defensively. And if you lose that bit of trust in him, or you feel that he's not at it, then the foundation of the whole thing becomes a little bit shaky, you know. And then I sometimes wonder, I'd love to in years to come ask their teammates what they think of him now, because I presume he was seeing him on the pitch was just so reassuring, and now then there's almost a sense of fallibility around them, and then you lose a little bit of something, you know, that helped the whole thing to work. And it was always a question of who's his best partner, and you know what are the attributes of the various people. But now, you know, people are suggesting he's potentially a problem. But then that adds even. It was always a case of they need to restructure the midfield eventually. They're getting away with it in midfield, but then you add the defence into that, and it's sort of what Richie alludes to. You're talking about a complete rebuild all the way through the spine of the side, effectively. I mean, you can take that to the nth degree by saying, okay, Salah's signed a long-term deal, but he's also just creeping a little bit older as well too. So that's definitely a glass half empty take on where things are.
We should bring people up to speed on what's going on in the world. The Newsround is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Richie, I think everybody expected in the end the Wales-England match would go ahead, and here we are.
Yeah, we got to the ledge though. Saturday's Six Nations meeting of Wales and England will go ahead as planned. Acting WRU Chief Executive Nigel Walker confirmed the news this evening, having met with senior Wales internationals Ken Owens, Alan Wynne-Jones and George North. Dozens of Welsh rugby players from all four regions descended on the Vale Resort adjacent to the WRU Centre of Excellence today. They attended a meeting helmed by Walker and the Professional Rugby Board Chair Malcolm Wall. Afterwards, Walker confirmed the current freeze on contracts will be lifted next week, and the 60 cap rule will be lowered to a threshold of 25. Wales captain Ken Owens insisted they will be good to go on Saturday despite the stresses of the past week.
Yeah, it's been very tough, as you can probably see from my voice. No, it has been a really tough sort of another event in Welsh rugby, which is hugely frustrating. But it's been a difficult period of the last sort of year, 18 months. And hopefully we don't end up here again. One thing I can say from a player's point of view is it has been tough, but we are fronted up in training. We've prepared as we would for any test match over the last 10 days since sort of the announcement came. And we're looking forward to getting out on Saturday and going toe-to-toe against England.
It's going to be interesting. It's hard to know what to expect. Rory O'Connor, Fiona Hayes on the way this hour. The reason Wednesday Night Rugby is coming at you sooner rather than the usual time of 8 o'clock is Liam Hayes is our feature interview between 8 and 9. Recorded this a little while ago. It's brilliant. We can't include all of it even, but we'll go for the vast majority, give you the full hour, 8 to 9 over to Liam Hayes. It's a great interview, so tune in for that if you're of any way inclined. We have a new captain for the Ireland game on Saturday.
Yeah, James Ryan is going to captain Ireland in Saturday's Six Nations game away to Italy. A groin injury has seen Jonathan Sexton ruled out of the trip to Rome, with his place likely to go to Ross Byrne. Ryan was before the media today and was asked about a presentation given to the squad ahead of the France test that involved former Ulster and Ireland player David Irwin.
Obviously the history of the jersey and the Irish rugby team, a little bit about Ireland's call, and Ireland's call, for example, people seem to give out about it a bit, but they probably don't understand the bigger picture of it, the uniqueness of it, the uniqueness of the Irish rugby team, because it's the only song that recognises the fact that the Irish rugby team makes up the whole island, north and south, and then it's just understanding how kind of sport binds people together, and how the last almost 150 years the Irish rugby team is one of the only things that has persisted, in unity and solidarity on this island. So understanding, the strength of it, the sacrifices that people made to wear the green jersey, and the privilege as well to wear.
Agreed. It's just a superior support to football.
Was Craig Doyle in on that presentation?
Yeah, he was.
Well?
Yeah.
Established why?
Craig Doyle and Brian O'Driscoll produced the documentary.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
that does make a little bit more sense.
Dave Irwin, doctor, who was in that awful car crash in 87, went in and gave his experience as well. So apparently,
Paul Rouse was talking as well too at some point, wasn't he?
Was he?
I think his name was mentioned. Yeah. So
no better man.
No, he former college lecturer of mine. Back in the day, very. I know a Paul Rouse sort of speech, as would probably be very interesting. In terms of sort of running into the weeds of the history and
Paul did a whole series in here during lockdown when, frankly, ideas were thin on the ground, Dan. But this was a brilliant idea. So he did, in effect, and I know you sat in on many of his lectures. He in effect kind of brought his sports history of sports lecture series to life and just did it across 10 weeks or so. It's in the annals if anyone wants to check it out. Real Madrid steamrolled Liverpool. Physicality light years ahead. Henderson and co looked jaded, says somebody. I mean, how could you not agree? I would say first 20-25 minutes we saw Liverpool trying to be Liverpool, pressing high, doing their thing, winning possession, and then they just couldn't maintain it, which is very understandable as well. Any update on the tuna pancakes?
Oh, Jesus.
No update, but we still are led to believe it's a real thing.
I've missed this now.
Yeah. Mick and Cork.
Count yourself lucky, Dan. Count yourself lucky.
Kenny brought in pancakes yesterday, courtesy of his mother.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. People started offering up what they like to put in their pancakes. It was all very normal until Mick and Cork said, family tradition, tuna out of the tin on a pancake.
I mean, that's a cry for help.
Kenny was shook.
Yeah, even Kenny was flummoxed by that.
Yeah. So the Republic of Ireland were in action this afternoon.
That they were. It wasn't exactly exciting fare out there in Cadiz. Vera Paulo said she was pleased with the performance of her Republic of Ireland side this afternoon. They played out a goalless draw with China there in Cadiz, offering 3 debuts as well. Ireland have also secured a pair of World Cup warm-ups against the United States in April. They'll play the reigning world champions in Austin on the 8th of that month before a meeting again in St. Louis in Missouri 3 days later. Pau said afterwards today it will be an excellent test for her players.
By times it was not good, but we can only grow from it, from doing it. And I think the whole game we've been trying.
I was going to ask, was there anything that kind of particularly concerned you, or something maybe that you thought next camp, that's the thing I want to focus on and really work out the cracks in?
Well, the next camp we will be under huge pressure, and that huge pressure is then of a complete different aim. So the opponents that we've chosen in a way that, for example, this week we could play closer against Germany to be ready for the pressure, so that we could work on our attacking play. Because normally you're more open, so you will get more risks against. But the fact that we play Germany, we could do this now. And the next step is that we need to get under the highest pressure again, and to the next steps.
To be fair, the FAI are giving them proper preparation here. This training camp, USA twice, 4-time World Cup winners, 4-time Olympic champions, that is ideal preparation. I think Vera has been very positive about that performance today. This team are beyond being patronised at this stage. What you would say against the 14th best side in the world in China is that they defensively were pretty secure, and that's the MO of this team in many respects.
It 100% is.
What they did against Scotland, it was a counter-attacking performance, and I suspect at the World Cup, not least opening match against Australia, crowd of 80,000 in the main Australian fans, as much as you suspect lots of Irish will somehow get into that game, but it will be all a rear guard action, and so that's the way they go about their business. However, you would have to say on the ball today was really poor. It was really bad. I would say in the first half there weren't 3 to 4 passes in a row in the opposition.
That was a hard watch.
But it would forget, okay, entertainment point aside, but just after a camp like that and working on patterns of play, the only pattern I saw was that when Ireland had the ball in their own half, Della Harp at right back would push on, they'd go to a back three, and from there play disintegrated. It's really worrying that they can't put passages of play together. It was a dispiriting performance on the ball. It was very committed, they were very good in defence. Come World Cup time, there'll be a danger in the counter-attack, but in terms of trying to knit play together, something's not working there very well.
But is that sort of, the thing is, we'll see where things are at by the World Cup, but Canada are traditionally a very strong side. I know there's all sorts of issues with their FA at the moment, so we'll see where they are.
Yeah.
But Vera Pauw to me strikes me as someone who's always planning ahead. That whole structure you're talking about, in reality in that World Cup, you can see Ireland in 2 of their 3 group games being the team who's just trying to be strong defensively and nick something on the counter. They're not going to be the purest choice, in this competition. They never have been really under Pauw. It's about the sense of achievement. They've broken down the barriers by being very disciplined, and that's what they do. And you can even see in the last 20 minutes of the game today, and it's it feels like a closed doors friendly because there's such a small crowd there.
Yeah.
And you can see the structure. You can see players are very aware of their positions defensively.
Agreed. Yeah.
But
that's no reason to do a bit more on the ball.
No, and that's, they sort of live or die by it. I always would have said this, if they didn't qualify for the World Cup, there probably would have been these questions of, God, could they have done more at times with some of these players? But they did it.
Yeah.
That hasn't been done before. And we've probably lived through a version of this debate in Irish football in sort of 1988 and 1990.
Italian 90. All criticism is just cribbing if things are going well on the pitch.
That will be the atmosphere and the attitude around it. And this is all about preparation for that.
We will talk more about that on the football show. We'll talk about John O'Shea's appointment and plenty more besides. We are out of time. Richie, thanks a mil.
Nice and lads.
Cheers. Dan here for the football show and the Champions League. So we will say good luck for the time being.
Cheers, Joe.
Good luck for the time being.
that was a really neat segue, to be honest.
Dan, take care.
Thanks. Listen, you look after yourself, Joe.
Okay, let's wrap this up.